Good day, folks. Hope everybody's doing well. If it's your first time listening to the show, please like and subscribe on whichever platform you're choosing to listen to the show. All the returning guests, welcome back. It's always great to see you. Thank you so much for all the support that you've shown the show so far. Amazon Smile. Amazon Smile is a service that Amazon provides where they take a portion of everything that you purchase on Amazon and they donate it to a charity that you get to choose. How do you do it? It's very simple. Pull up the webpage, pull up the app, however you shop on Amazon. In the product search bar, type in Smile. Amazon Smile will be one of the options. Click on it, go through the super simple process. The prompts that it makes you go through maybe takes 30 seconds. At the very bottom, it's gonna ask you which foundation you want to donate to. Type in Professional Firefighters of North Carolina Charitable Fund. It will auto-generate. You can click it and boom, you're done. All the money generated from your purchases on Amazon, the donation, all the money will go to help firefighters in our state here in North Carolina in times of hardship. It's great, super simple, it's easy, doesn't cost you anything extra. It's a way you can donate and you don't even know you're doing it. It's wonderful. Next on the show, returning guest, Mr. Chris Blanchard. If you listened to the last episodes with Chris, you know the conversation is always electrifying, inspiring. We've got emotional at times with Chris. This is no different. This was a wonderful show, a long show. It's actually gonna come out in parts. What you're fixing to listen to right now is part one. There'll be 2 more parts to follow, so stay tuned for those as they come out. I don't even know how to start when it comes to Chris. He's just a great guy, overall great human being. He's a fire truck mechanic. He's a human being that's full of knowledge and full of wisdom. Great dude. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Y'all stay tuned, y'all listen. Here's Chris.
Yeah, and I think when you get your A's, don't your, like a bunch of your alcohol stuff, that gets cut in half and a bunch of other crap?
Oh, it goes,
There's like
instead of 0.08, it's 0.03,
Shoot.
I believe. So, yeah, it goes way, way, way down.
You can't even smell a drink. Like,
No.
Yeah, dude, you use Listerine, you're done.
yeah.
Don't brush your teeth and get in your truck.
Yeah.
You're done.
Did I tell you about the lady that called about the sign out front?
No.
So I'm on duty yesterday.
The Castle Hayne sign. The
Castle
station
Hayne.
sign.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I answer the phone, and she introduces herself. She says, "I have a wild, crazy question for you." And I'm like, I'm sure half her house is on fire or something. So she says, "The sign that's out in front of your firehouse, it's like says different things all the time. Who does that?" I was like, "Well, actually, I do it."
At which point were you like, oh no?
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah. So,
Right from the get-go.
yeah, I was telling him earlier, I was like, I wasn't sure if she was calling to complain or just curious or something in the between, So she says, "How do you decide what you put on the sign?" I was like, "It's real easy. I just Google motivational quotes or inspirational words. Like, I just go to Google and find it." I said, "Most of those things are really long, so I have to shorten them up so it fits on the sign."
Right.
She's like, "Oh, okay. What does the one that's on there now mean?"
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And I was like, I had to think about it. It says, "Stay calm." You saw it. Stay
Yeah.
calm and do the math.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. And she was like, "What does do the math mean?" And I'm still like trying to figure out, is she like,
Is this a trap?
yeah, I was in my head. I was like, is she,
Pissed off.
yeah, is she pissed off or,
Who do you work for?
yeah. And I was trying to figure out, is there a message in this message that I didn't intend? Like, one of those things you say something and then somebody takes it completely different and you look at it and you're like, oh shit, that does kind of sound that way. But I was like, well, if you're going to go do something, you got to do the math. Like, figure out, do I need tools or food or gas? Like, you got to stay calm, think about what you're doing and get your stuff together, do the math. She was like, oh, okay. So how do you find these again? And she went back through it and wanted to know. I think she must have a sign in front of her own business and wants to participate or something.
Sign Wars.
Sign Wars, yeah.
Oh,
Have you seen those?
oh yeah.
It's amazing. Like McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, they all get into it with Sign Wars.
I didn't know that existed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I have to try to pull up some of the funny ones.
I just knew I was about to field like a full complaint. Like I don't know. I wasn't sure how it was going to be bad, but
You figured the next call you got was going to be from HR.
Yeah, like suddenly math was like controversial, or
I think we've had that discussion on here about the sign and all the attention it gets.
Yeah,
I enjoy it.
I don't know if you knew, but for a while, there were some that thought the sign was geared toward them or toward like a certain group of people. And remember the Hit Dog Hollers one?
Of course I do.
Yeah, that one I got from him, but I put it up, and that one got a lot of questions. But yeah, they're all like motivational quotes or old wives' tales.
Yeah.
And,
I
wisdom.
think they're great.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I told the little Hit Dog Hollers analogy at the live burn that night we were discussing the sign, and I was like, my granddaddy used to tell me. He said, if you throw a rock at a group of dogs, the one that hollers is the one you hit. And it took 30 years to figure out what
exactly what he meant.
Yeah, but yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know who's offended? Just listen.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll holler. They'll let you know. I like my sign. Is there any other firehouses? Oh, Wrightsboro's got one. They don't use it, though, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I think 13's the only one that I know of that has continuously always had something on it.
Right.
Like, there seems like there's always been something on it. Obviously, it's gotten a lot more colorful since you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But-
it was mostly just check your smoke detector kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much like the county's social media. Pretty
Yeah.
bland and non-existent.
It could use a uptick. It needs a Red Bull out of the fridge.
Who's over
I
that?
agree. I don't know. I know there's certain folks that are allowed access to it, but I don't know. I don't think it has a sole proprietor, a person who is their job to manage the social media.
They need to let us in.
Legit.
They don't need to let us in. They need to hire a person who is savvy with that.
Well, a lot of places do that anyway. I mean,
Welcome to 2022.
yeah,
But yeah, they need to figure out.
public information officer.
I wouldn't even give them. I don't know that I would want this person necessarily talking in front of a camera like a news camera. I don't believe that's relatable enough. My belief is the PIO should be somebody who is of knowledge of what's going on because they can portray the best information.
Mm-hmm.
Best PIO I've ever heard speak in my entire life is Blake Turner. The best. I mean, he has the ability to articulate what's happening, what's caused, to the best that he knows, and articulate it in a way that makes sense. So that's perfect. It makes sense for somebody that knows what's going on to be the one. I don't know that fits the criteria of somebody who would be in charge of social media or media, period. Like if you get a 24, 25-year-old college student, you give them a salary, you give them a MacBook Pro, give them a Sony A3 camera, 4K camera. They don't need an office. Like I said, give them a salary, give them a hotspot for the internet, give them an iPhone, and say, all right,
You need to be around.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Here, we expect this, and this. Here's your expectations. Have fun. The beautiful thing about social media is if something were to happen and something was posted that could be viewed as controversy, it's simple to take it down and issue an apology. That happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. We've lived that life. I mean, it happens all the time. So you yank it, and by issuing the apology, you save face, you acknowledge a mistake. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to do it, and then you're done. But the way that it's happening right now is not gonna. It's not gonna have any return on
It's
investment.
not winning.
No, it's not. It's not. We talked about this the other day. You go through YouTube and you type in fire department recruit videos or fire department promotional videos, anything that's dealing with recruiting new members or anything like that, and the stuff out there is amazing. Miami-Dade just had one that came out last month. It's flipping insane. It's insane. Have you seen it?
No.
I'm gonna pull it up and we're gonna watch it.
Yeah.
And I'll put it on the screen.
I agree with you on Turner. If we were going to pick like a PIO, I would Turner. I'd probably vote for him first. I actually think Buckner would be a really good one. I would like
Till
to
he
see
gets
it.
terrified of
Pissed
cameras.
off. He is.
Oh, that's funny.
Why do you think he hadn't been down here?
Yeah.
He won't even get in a picture of the ball team. He stands in the back.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, he does.
That's crazy. Yeah. I would go out for the position if they were going to like run a process or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd like to do it.
All right. So I'll try to tie this in to the editing process somehow. If not, then we'll just cut all this out, and it'll be weird for the people listening, but they can go look on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give it some volume.
Great transition, by the way.
That was amazing. Every kid in America that saw that just put their Call of Duty game down and told their parents, "This is what I want to do."
Dude.
That was good.
Is it not crazy?
That was good.
Stop that. If you've seen it once, that's good. Is that not crazy, man?
Yeah.
But that's just one department.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them out there. And it's been, I think there's actually a company now. Me and you talked about this a little bit, but they don't just do fire department stuff. They do a bunch of they do car stuff and all that, but they make like videos like this. I'm sure it's a videography company or something like that, but
It will be worth it.
You can do 95% of that with an iPhone and somebody with a little knowledge.
Yeah.
They can shoot all that and then throw it in some editing software and create that. It's not rocket science,
No.
but
That was very well done.
dude,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. Editing is not just about the program and collecting good images, like the timing and the
transitions.
The
and-
transitions.
yeah,
Yes, man.
the flow of music and how the video looks. I mean, you can't have upbeat music in a wedding. They
Yeah.
don't go together, you know. So there's
Yeah.
it's storytelling is all it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that right there makes me want to like turn in an application now, and I'm a fireman already.
I wonder if anybody's thought about putting somebody in that position.
What do you mean?
Here,
I've never heard any discussion about it.
Ray. If he was
mean-
here, Ray could do that.
Yeah, I think there's ample people who are capable. What,
I'd love to see Ray as the PIO.
bro?
No. He doesn't need to talk to anybody. He just needs to take the pictures in the video.
Like his level of smartass sometimes is you can't see it. Like to the untrained eye, you don't know he's being a smartass, but he's so good at it.
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing
He's
at
a
it.
master,
Yeah.
a master bullshitter.
Yep. If
that's
you've
good.
been around him for a minute, you can see it coming. Yeah.
Yeah, he's he would be good, but I mean, for not having an office, not being tied to a time clock, and just basically getting them a few minor things, and I mean, not a crazy salary, but a half decent salary for the time, because it is very time consuming. This process, the editing process, and it's time consuming. I mean, I feel like they would be beating down your door for applications. and then you would have that. And Wilmington Fire, they just did it. I mean, and it shows.
Do they have somebody doing that
Yes,
for them?
Absolutely. If you'll look at Wilmington Fire's social media, it's fantastic. It's great. It's not just, hey, change your smoke alarms in October.
Or we're about to have a trick or treat.
Yes, with a generic letterhead and all this. We're past that now. I mean, it's 2022. We're past that. That worked when Facebook first came out, but
Somebody needs to pitch that.
Yeah. And that position can't be micromanaged.
no,
Like
they
You
have
got
to
to have pretty much freedom.
it's an art, and you can't stand over an artist's shoulder and
You can't
you know.
can't put a cap on creativity.
Yep.
You can't put it in a jug. It's just got to be able to go.
Yeah.
Speaking of caps, gentlemen.
What was sipping here?
So
Salute, fellas.
this one's Blanton's, which is this here.
Whiskey and good friends.
A little less harsh than
It's delicious. Where did you find this?
That was a gift. My cousin Tara gave that to me.
It's hard to find. It's almost like Buffalo Trace is.
Agreed.
Sometimes you have to ask. Like if you go in and ask for it, they hide some boxes in the back. Every time I've asked for Buffalo Trace, they always have it. It's just never
Really?
on the shelf. No, they don't put it on the shelf.
Gosh, maybe edit that part out because I don't want the word to get out. I need some. Yeah.
If they don't have Buffalo Trace on the shelf, then they don't have it at all.
Yes. See, well done. Thanks.
Yeah. So, but Blanton's, I don't know if Blanton's is. I don't know. I've never seen it on the shelf, so maybe they never have it. I don't know.
it's really smooth.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's tasty. Thanks, Tara.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. I've heard two sides to the Blanton story. Some people say it's not all it's cut out to be. They're like, it doesn't live up to the hype. And then some people are like, it's, God's gift to us humans.
We had that conversation today. Pappy Van Winkle I've heard lots of people who have tried it said it's no different than much other top shelf that you buy. But what they do is the company sells it for $50 to $100 a bottle, but they make it really hard to get, so it causes people to go buy it and sell it for $15,000. And they're doing it.
Jeremy's had some when his sister, I guess she still works at the bar, but they sell it in, they don't call it shots. They call it something more bougie than a shot, but it's essentially a
pour.
shot. Oh, yeah, a pour, excuse me. Yeah. So they sell it in pours, and it's like $40 a pour. And I think him and somebody else went in and got a pour. He said it was good.
But not $10,000 a bottle good.
Man, I think it's all about context when it comes to whiskey. What's the purpose? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
If we're sipping to be sipping, then we need something something that's a little easier to sip. Now, if we're going all in, if we're pushing the cards to the center, all our chips in the middle, and you all know what that means, then we don't necessarily need something that tastes good.
Yeah.
Just has to do the job.
There we go.
Yeah. Do you know if bourbon is the same as wine in that, like right after you open it, it tastes a certain way?
Yes.
And then after some time
So
goes
believe
by?
it or not, bourbon is only really good after it's been open for a certain length of time. Much longer than wine is. But I did a bunch of reading on liquors, scotch, things like that. But yeah, once it's open to the air, unless you could suck all the air out of the bottle and put the cap back on.
Steve could do that.
Okay, then.
Is that a compliment? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. It loses it. And snobs can tell a difference in a month or two. I can't. I've had liquor that's been open several years. Still tastes good to me, but
Yeah. Every movie you've ever seen with the, the
Decanter
nice,
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
decanter. It's just, they just go over to the side of the room.
All the
and get
lawyers
some.
drink it in the office.
and sometimes it's open. I mean, like the lid's off of it. But
Right.
pouring it in one of those things essentially accelerates that process too.
Right.
Because the decanter that you have is not purged out like they do those. Wine, same way, they're purged out with nitrogen, something like that. So, so you're pouring it in that which is already full of air that's been in there for God knows how long, and it accelerates the process of it breaking down. But yeah, it'll lose. I did read that. I don't know how long, and I don't really care how long. It's not going to affect me, but snobs it will, I guess.
We've been trying to find somebody, a distiller of some type. Finding somebody who does beer is not hard in this town, but trying to find a true whiskey person.
Why don't you get the end of days people to come in here?
I've reached out several times. I've been in conversation, thrown dates, all that kind of stuff. Just can't get it together.
So there's them. Jacksonville has a distillery. I
Isn't
can't
that
remember.
E.W. Walton's?
Yeah.
E.W. Walton's. I've sent them an email. Didn't get any response from them.
Yeah, one
Yep.
over there. Yeah, try to get them.
Let's ask the people from Jack Daniels.
I want like somebody like
That would be straight up.
They got a badass fire truck. I know that.
Yeah.
yes, but
So
I
now-
want somebody that's like. I mean, I'm sure the Waltons folks. I'm sure the End of Days folks. They have. I'm sure. Plenty of experience, but they're not somebody who works at Jack Daniels, or they're not somebody. You know what I mean? They're not Eagle Rare people. Or,
No,
you know what I'm
no,
saying?
no. I
That's-
get it. I get it. But I think they all would have the same basic information that you're looking for.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to somebody about it. Mm-hmm. I could geek out over that for a few minutes, I believe.
And you may have to go to End of Days and just talk to the guy that does their distilling. But if you could talk to him and sell him on coming, I think it would be crazy. It's a free advertisement.
I agree.
That, and I would watch the show. Like I would, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I was unaffiliated and I knew that information was being shared, I'm in.
Yeah. If nothing else but to just give you a background of how it's made. Not exactly how it's made, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and,
And
why
then-
oak barrels and why.
That's exactly right.
Why not pecan barrels?
Right.
Yeah.
Or
have you tried it?
yeah, why not?
I am
This.
quite sure they've tried probably everything.
Yeah, so why oak?
Yeah. I don't know.
Why is it necessary to be this color?
Mm-hmm.
Because whiskey and
Is not
Scotch
that
is
color.
not that color until you put it in the barrel. When you put it in the char barrel is what gives it the color. It's just same as any distilled spirit. It's all clear. I'm assuming based off of what your
Yes.
mash is or whatever.
And then the longer it sits in there, the
darker,
it
it
gets.
gets. Yeah. Why that color? Why is that the desired outcome?
Or is that just a byproduct of the desired outcome?
Maybe.
Well, think about it like this too. If that was clear, you would not immediately know what was in it. You can break that down to one of 3 or 4 things: Scotch, bourbon, tequila.
Apple juice,
Yeah, tea.
Ditch water.
Yeah.
ditch water.
But I mean, going into the liquor store, you know,
Yeah.
Right.
You're not looking for white liquor.
It's a visual effect, maybe.
It is.
It's a visual thing.
It looks very much better in that bottle than if it was clear or green. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they could make it purple, but
I wonder if that could be changed. You know, you see, like Jameson, you wouldn't have any idea what Jameson was. It's in a green bottle.
no,
And have you noticed a lot of Irish whiskeys are like that?
most all of them are.
Yeah. What's Twiddlemore? How do you say that?
Tilla,
de Moore or
Yep.
whatever. It's not in a green one. It's in a clear one, but it's good too.
the baby over there.
I see
is
the
definitely,
Jameson.
It's definitely in a green bottle.
The baby.
The
Oh,
Lafroig.
Anyway,
I've mispronounced that word several times.
what do we say that we've called it all kinds of things?
Awful.
Yeah.
We called it awful.
Yeah, he really called it awful.
Lapern Google.
Lafroig. Yeah. Lafroig.
Lafrogan.
You'll be happy to know that I've brought it back into my regular. So when we go eat before the show, sometimes I'll get something that makes me feel like I need to clear my throat, and that stuff is amazing at keeping that down.
Yeah.
Like keeping it away. Yeah. So now I'm starting to acquire a taste for it.
It's oh wow.
Who was it that the fitness guy, the firefighter functional fitness guy?
Yeah. Which
was-
one?
That one.
Yep.
We couldn't get him to drink. We tried to get him to drink. He wouldn't drink.
That's
He's
right.
Too tight.
Straight
tight-
edge.
Straight
Yeah.
edge for that. That's right. But this dude, yeah,
Yeah.
he was down.
He's been around the planet a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah, he talked highly of it. We tried to get him to take it with him, and he wouldn't do it. So,
That show was good.
You hurt me.
Yeah, I didn't know how that one was going to go. Like I missed the class, so I
Sure.
didn't have any frame of reference, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was damn, I like these guys.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, yep, I like those. Honestly, humans, when you just have a good conversation, even if you don't have common ground, there's something about a conversation that you find whatever common ground it is, unless you're looking for a fight, and then like that interaction we saw earlier.
That dude was looking to whip somebody's ass.
Yeah, that was going to go down. I'm glad we weren't part of a police report on that one. We rode by road rage earlier, but anyway, to my point, like conversations can find you common ground,
Absolutely.
Even in a like an unlikely scenario, or you just meet somebody, meet a group of people, start talking. Yeah, it works out.
There have been several people on this show that I would look going into watching it as I have nothing in common with this person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch it, and it totally changes your mind about the person that you didn't even know. I mean, you shouldn't have formed an opinion about them without only just looking at them anyway, but even some people that I knew something about, and I'm like, where's the connectivity here?
Yeah.
It doesn't take long. You figure it out.
What's the biggest upset in that? Like, what's the guest that you thought you were going to not have anything to common with, but it turns out you did?
Put him on the spot.
Yeah.
No,
I was
don't
expecting a Dane Britt right out of the gate, because I think he
I could
gets
see
that
that
a lot.
Well, I could see that, but I think he knows the premise of Dane Britt.
Yeah.
Oh,
true.
yeah.
And that would be easy Chris likes going fast. Dane likes going fast. If nothing else, they like going fast.
right.
So that would be pretty, maybe, I don't know.
He reminds me of my 20-year ago self.
Yeah.
Maybe not to that extreme,
Sure.
but definitely thrill-seeking. Really don't have anything to live for except for living for today kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's what he feels like,
Sure.
but I'm just saying that he does remind me of that. So it's very easy for me to connect with him that way. But I don't know. I found a pretty good connection with everybody, even the politician people. You
Right.
know, I really, it's not my thing, but it turned out to be my thing. You know,
Yeah.
I did. I don't know. I don't think I've had anyone that was a letdown.
Yeah. Sheriff McMahon. I didn't mean let down either, just like the expectation verse. But, man, Sheriff McMahon was so cool.
Yeah, and you know what? Being as you said that, probably my first initial thoughts were when I saw that he was on the show was, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
But it worked.
I'm offended that you question our talent.
Not your talent. No, not your talent. But I mean, and I don't know him.
Of course.
It was like he was at your kitchen table eating dinner with you.
Absolutely.
The same thing I just told you about what happened to me. That's how I got that, and I was like, it's pretty cool that a person in his position and stature can come somewhere like this, not on the news, come somewhere like this and let their hair down and still be perfectly in lines with what he does.
I had the interaction with him, and I went through the avenues that I needed to go through in order to get in contact with him, to get his number directly. And and I sent him a message, much like the message that you sent yesterday. Super simple, easy, laid out the motives, and within probably 15 minutes, he texted me back and asked for a link to the show. So I sent him all the links. I think I may have sent him one of your links, and then I sent him somebody else's. I don't remember. And it was super simple. I'm sure that he had people do a lot of digging.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
To figure out, because he's not in the position he's in by being dumb, and he's not going to be easily lured into something. So, but yeah, it was within, I don't know, at least maybe 2 days, 3 or 4 days, something like that. And he texted me back and was like, here's the number to basically my assistant or whatever. You call, coordinate with her on a time. She'll put it on my calendar, and I'll see you then. And it was
easy.
Just that
Yeah.
easy. And he showed up with the biggest smile on his face you ever seen in your life.
The
and he
whole
was
show
great.
was.
Yeah.
I've had about 3 or 4 interactions with him in the 17 years that I've been in Hanover County. Actually been in the same vicinity as him. I'm not going to say in the same building, but tighter than that. We're sharing space together, and he is just like that every time. He's talked to me like he knew exactly who I was, exactly who my mom and daddy were, and knew
Right.
everything about me. He was just that nice,
Personable.
very personable.
Why he's still here.
He's the
That's it.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He had a great way of articulating the need for compassion in law enforcement, but also the need for sometimes you got to be Thor's hammer, and that line can't be narrow, but at the same time it can't be so wide that there's no happy middle, and
Right.
it can't
No
deviate.
path from one to the other.
That's right. It's got to be this is right, this is wrong, and it's pretty black and white. And if you do wrong, you're going to get Thor's hammer, and that's the way he does with his people. It's like, it's pretty simple. I've always admired his style of leadership with his actual people under his charge, his deputies. There's certain things that he has a zero tolerance for, and there's also times that I've heard stories from his deputies, and I've heard stories from other folks that he will absolutely hang on the cross for his people.
Yep.
If he he doesn't care about his image. He doesn't care about how it looks, and that works both ways. Like I said, there's some absolute things he has a zero tolerance for.
Right, but those two characteristics make
A leader.
a perfect person, a good leader.
Absolutely. Yep, he's got some hard nose,
Yeah.
like no questions asked. You can't work for me anymore. You know,
Yeah.
if you cross this line, and it's just no.
I know when you're somebody's boss, it's hard for you to be their friend, but you have to be to some extent. You have to have a compassion for them and make them feel like they can talk to you or confide in you, and that they're not a number. And it's hard for some people to differentiate the two of those. You know, one thing in my business that I always have done from day one was hired my friends. It's never not worked out. I mean, there's been things that's happened, but it's never not worked out. Those are the people that I trusted more than anyone else. But I've never had to not be their friend with them, and it's different than him or
Sure.
our chief here or the chief at Wilmington or the chief in New York City that probably doesn't know everybody's name. But you have to have some of that, I think, to really be a great leader. Let's get off a great leader. And just watching the show and not knowing that much about him, he definitely has it.
There's something about the outlook of you're working for. You're their boss, but your job is to work on their behalf. Your job is to advocate for their behalf and their well-being, and then the ability to actually be able to hear those voices, to hear the voices. There's something to that. How can you advocate for somebody on their behalf if you don't hear what they're saying? If you're so far disconnected, like you're not that much of a friend. There's books out about how to be the differentiating between friend and boss and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not knocking the book by any means, but I'm sure there's some good stuff in there. But I don't know. I think you have to have good leaders in place for the new folks to mentor under to figure that part out.
Well, and two, in his job or any sheriff or police chief or fire chief, depending on where they are, most everybody that works under them is responsible for paying his salary.
Sure.
So he is supervising people that he's at their leisure for, at their, whatever you call it,
Especially in the elected position.
right.
Like the
So
sheriff's
Like the
elected.
sheriff, yeah.
right. So he's elected and he works for the people that live in this county, and his employees live in this county. So it's kind of a weird position to be in as a boss, but
I don't want it.
I don't either. but the people that do it, they know how to handle it. You can look at anywhere. The ones that don't know how to handle it, they don't last very long.
One of his responses that kind of won me over to be a fan kind of speaks to that. If your motives are in the right spot, it's easy.
Very much.
If you're just wanting to protect the area and stand up for your employees and be the guy, then it's almost like it's easier than easy. But then if you don't have the right motives, you're just trying to get from here to there, then you need the book to teach you.
Yeah.
Like, but I want this, but I got to do this to get there. So let me learn how to do this.
But in reality, doesn't that work for what we do the same way? You come into work and you have to have that same thought process that he does or anybody that works for him. If you're just turning your wheels the 24 hours that you're here, what are you really doing? But if you are coming in and you want to fulfill that role in the way that it's supposed to be fulfilled, then it's easy. There's not backlash from you doing that. Mm-hmm. You're doing your job. You're doing what they've asked you to do. In most parts, you're going above and beyond exactly what you're being asked to do. Everybody in this position does that. I don't know anybody that works here that doesn't really do that. There may be, but I don't see it. You go above what you're really supposed to do. you're cutting somebody out of a car, your job is to cut them out of the car. But it's more than that. You got to still be compassionate to them. You got to be.
Sure.
So just what you said about him, it's your responsibility to be the same way in what you're doing every day, and yours, and even mine.
Facts.
Yeah.
The secret word, even if you don't use the word, but as long as you intend it, is the serve part, like protect and serve.
Yeah.
If you have that mentality, it makes you good because you're there to serve and be the best.
Some people don't get servant thing. They think it's a bad thing, but I don't look at it like that. I've been in the fire service for over 20 years. I look at that as a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to do that. I don't know, it's the part that gets you off. That's,
Nice.
yeah.
He didn't like that noise.
I didn't either.
But yeah, I mean, the serving part of it is the biggest portion.
Mm-hmm.
You remember how we were sitting up there on the bench waiting for dinner, and we were talking about the Eric Prince episode on the Sean Ryan show, and you remember how he categorized those SF guys that worked for him. He gave a specific set of criteria that he had to give them in order for them to allow them to do their job, and that was, I'm sure there was more, but the one that really resonated with me was they had to be mission oriented. They had to be mission focused. It was, okay, here's your mission.
Go do it.
Go do it.
Yep.
And I think if our mission can remain as superior service, superior customer service, and then the reins let off to an extent, you have renegades and retards like me.
Yeah.
That'll, we'll steer the horse a different direction. But the superior service mentality, and then the release of the operators to go do what they've been trained to do, you're empowering them.
Yeah.
And that alleviates the micromanaging, that shows the people that you're in charge of, that shows them that you trust them, and that only reflects back on you.
That's right.
It makes sense. His mentality of doing that was, he was like, these are SF guys, and they are the absolute best at this craft right here. And it doesn't matter what I ask them to do. I'll ask them to go do it. This is the mission. Go do it. If they needed 16 camels and whatever, I gave it to them. It didn't matter. Here's what you do, and go do it. And they had 0 unsuccessful missions ever. 0.
I'm glad you said craft. I got a question for you.
Okay.
So I just said that thing about serve, like that needs to be part of your mentality. Like if your motives are in the right spot. There's also another route, I think, and I'm going to ask you guys, there's also another route to a great fireman, and it's the craft side. I know of a couple that are really good that I don't think ever think about serving, like as a honorable, like that, like warm heart feeling.
Right.
I don't think it's there. I think it's the mastering the craft side of it. And to the customer, they didn't call 911 to get, warm and fuzzies or a craftsman. They're in a bad way and they need some help. So what do you think? Is that like a legit path, or maybe I'm seeing it?
No, I think that's very much a thing. And I'm not sure if it's I don't know if you can dig that up with just the fire department job, or if that's more like in their own personality. Some people are a little bit more compassionate, and that probably orients their mind to be more of the service. While you're cutting the car open, they might be the person that's there with the patient, and then your craft guy is ripping the damn car apart.
Yeah.
The mission is get the person out of the car, and I'll put myself in that. I see a house on fire. My first goal is to assist or put the fire out as quickly as possible. And I'm not worried about people's stuff during this process. I'm not worried about their hinges on their door. I'm not worried about their pet at that point. I mean, it's life, and it's put the fire out as fast as absolutely possible, or assist in it. Cut a hole in the roof as fast as absolutely possible. If I don't need a roof ladder, I'm not putting a roof ladder there before I start cutting my hole. Sorry. But the more compassionate person might look at it a little different. You know, they're dragging that hose down the hallway. They might, you know, making sure they're being a little more easy with people's stuff. I don't know.
I would submit that you actually do more math than you think you are. You're valuing the things that you're potentially going to save over the hinges on the door or the glass on the window.
For sure.
You know, it's like I'm not worried about this part. We're gonna save lives and the real stuff, the photo album that's on the coffee table or the important papers under the bed. You know, the value, the things that people are like, can you please go look and see if this is still here?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. Ethan and Ray, I would never put them on like the patient care.
Sure.
The warm and fuzzy part, but I would put them on the task, you know.
Well, you have people that are good at both,
or
one or the other. And then you have that rarity where you have people that are good at both. Mm-hmm. That's probably more of a pink elephant to have somebody that is really honed in their craft and is serious about being a truckie as you are, and also that person who, you know, can take themselves out of that mindset of I have to be the one that instructs how this door comes off and get in the car with that person and just hold their hand and talk to them.
Yeah, bring them to calm.
Yeah.
And let all the
Because
chaos
believe it
go.
or not, that's a craft.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
It is something that is it's hard for me. I find myself in the position of getting in that car with that person and wanting to talk them off the edge and about losing it as bad as they do, and at the wrong time. You know, it's hard. So then you stumble and you're babbling, but it's a craft both ways.
That's an easier job when you have the Ethans and the Rays outside the car.
Yeah, I agree.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It is.
Yeah. This is going to be an awful analogy or an awful example of what you're speaking about, but, you know, awful is kind of my middle name. You were talking about somebody being compassionate and whatnot, and then the Rays and the Ethan, the mission-oriented people where they don't necessarily see all that. If you have a person who's standing on the top of the bridge and they're ready to jump off, you have people like Chris who are there to help them, try to convince them not to jump off. I'm the person who's in the background thinking about how to rig the rope system to get my people down there to help retrieve their body when they jump off.
I get it.
Yeah. You see,
but I get it. It's just a different. It's who you are. It's, you know, everybody's different, and it's a different mindset. You know, you're forward thinking to what needs to happen.
Worst case scenario type stuff. Yeah,
that's right.
I don't know if it's a great thing, but
Do you remember that Simon Sinek? Does everybody know who Simon Sinek is?
Yes.
Remember that speech he gave where he talked to the military guys about how they pick SEAL team?
Oh, yeah.
Man, that thing's really good. But one of his examples that he gave was how you can walk into a group of any group, like military folks, firemen or whatever, and say, who's the asshole? And everybody points at the same guy. Like, you know, there's...
Hoffman.
Yeah, there he is. But there's a role for everybody.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like in that scenario.
Sure.
And it's funny how everybody knows. Don't put he's the asshole. So don't put him on talking the person out of jumping. That's going to be your job.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny how natural that is, but you don't really read about it. It's not in the textbooks. You know, it's just like.
That's what. See, I think my ability to see that side of me is one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons that I'm happy in the position that I'm at now versus moving on in my career, promoting on up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I don't think I've mastered the compassionate side of the job yet. I don't think I'm there yet because I'm forward thinking, and I think that might hinder my decision making process a little bit.
But it's really possible that would come with age too.
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time. I'm pretty old now.
I know, but
26 is not old.
Yeah. I thought it was 27. Shit.
Yeah, it might be.
Guys made me blush.
But no, I mean, maybe not years of service, just age
years
itself.
on Earth. Yeah, years on Earth. I get it.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with a lot of people. I mean, I know the older I get, the more I won't say compassionate, but I mean, definitely the more soft-hearted I have become.
You notice you meet different people, and like in your situation, the age doesn't match like that personality that you're getting back.
Age and maturity level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's right on.
Sure.
And then sometimes it's way off one way or the other. It's off more than I would have guessed. You know?
Carson. Hey, the new guy.
Carlos.
Same way.
I like that guy.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
But age does not match his demeanor.
He started his internship at 17, so we'll take all the credit for that.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised.
Nah, he's a great kid for sure. Great kid. I was talking to Chief Haraway. I was on the phone with him. Ended up staying on the phone with him for damn near an hour the other evening, and we were just throwing shit back and forth at each other. And he was asking me. He had called to ask me about about a person. And like I do, I always give my honest opinion about everybody. If you ask my opinion, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to give you my opinion, but if you ask, I'll tell you. Steve will tell you that. But he was asking me, and then that led to another tangent where we got off on this sprawl of leadership and whatnot, and this compassion kind of conversation actually came up, and he told me that one of the greatest benefits of his career was stop concentrating on the specialty side of things, the task-oriented things, and start being good at the other things. And that it's perfect for this conversation. I'm trying not to disclose details about who we were talking about by any means, but this particular person hadn't been doing the meat and potatoes work. So we all know what that means in this county. He wasn't on an engine company in Hanover County. So, he or she wasn't, they would have been fine doing engine work, but they just haven't done it in so long that side of things, the everyday, the mama pops, the going into the houses for sick calls, the medical call documentation, all that stuff, get good at that.
Right.
Get good at that. And then if you get put on something else, you've got this foundation. And I think that's part of one of my downfalls. I've been on a truck company since 2009.
So that's the only foundation you have.
That's what I know. Right. I've always been task-oriented. I spent time on the rig, on the engine, but I was never, ever in the leadership role in those young years when I was here before I got moved to the truck, where quickly I was thrown into, in the beginning there was no officer on the truck. It was me, Buckner, and Hardwood. So we all rotated. So one tour you drive, one tour you rode backwards, one tour you rode officer. So, that was 2009. So, I've been riding on that side of that truck since 2009. So my brain thinks differently. But that gave myself a little realization, a little gut check moment there. Like, maybe I'm not great at that stuff. Maybe I'm not good at that. Maybe you should try to get better at that. If I want to be a pink elephant, which I really want to be a pink elephant.
That era and time, you and Buckner and Hardwood on the truck company. I was at Wrightsboro on the engine, and you guys came by and delivered. I had no idea at the time, but now looking back on it, the most beautiful. Oh man, it was like a sales pitch. Like you were selling what the truck company is here for and what you would be providing, and
the craft.
We were selling you on how to get the fuck out of our way.
I was a sponge, so I
Sure.
was new, and I was sitting there listening, and it made so much sense, and I was in. And very shortly after, I don't know if you remember the fire, you scared the shit out of Matt Moore. We were burying the dead bird in the backyard.
Yes, of course I remember.
Yeah, so that
So
fire.
does he.
Yeah, that fire. We showed up. I bail off, pull the pre-connect. I'm at the front door. Kevin's doing his walk around, and you guys show up. And I have no time on, but I knew because you guys came by and gave that, I knew what was about to happen. And he said, just follow those guys. And I was like, I know what they're going to do. So that's perfect. Yeah, dude, that speech, it was well done. It was like a sales pitch.
We went to every department every single station in the county that was on the north side and gave that exact same speech to everybody.
What you can expect.
Man truck companies, that was the inception of man truck companies for Newberry County was in 2009. So we were the first.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was an expectation that nobody knew about.
Yeah. I don't know whose idea that was, but
it was collective. I wouldn't give it to any one person.
Right.
Probably less of me than anybody else. But I'll probably give more credit to Buckner probably than anybody. But, yeah, that was... Who knew such a simple thing would be so impactful?
Yeah. He should quit hiding from the camera, because if you can sell a group of people your expectations, and that, like in your head, it was a get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
But it was selling your skills and abilities in such a way that for our company, we couldn't wait for you to show up. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't oh God. Like right now, I think if somebody came around and tried to sell me on that pitch, I don't know that I'd receive it so well. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But
we're gonna lay 5-inch right down the middle of the highway.
Yeah. But the sales pitch, Buckner did a really good job. You all did. That was.
You'll have an easier time convincing me to buy a radiator for a Volkswagen Beetle than you will getting Buckner behind a camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we can fix it.
Yeah, that radiator's leaking on that 73 Beetle.
That's it. Yeah. I try. I ask him all the time. Yeah, he's not into it.
It needs
Buckner, we're gonna get you down here.
Yeah.
I thought about today. I was like, if he hadn't have been sick, I'd have really tried hard. But I was like, I should get him to come hang out with us today, and then just make him come in here.
Yeah.
He'd
Get some
have fun.
roofies.
He would have
so much fun.
He would. And if you hid the cameras and he never thought it would ever air anywhere, he could sit here and talk.
Dude's full of stories too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And good at telling them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good at it.
Yeah. I like when he tells stories about his son. He'll stand up and walk like his son's walking.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny.
He's an actor.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Had a long career of a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great. It's great. Speaking of storytelling, you got to tell us the story of the finger.
Oh, yeah.
Or the absent finger, whichever one.
I got nervous. When you said,
it's painful.
Yeah, you indicated toward your finger and like, this part came off, and I was like.
Yeah. So, 2 years ago, 2 years ago. So, I was working at a fire station, and they had like 17 bay doors.
17 bay doors?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I was all the way at the far end by the shop, working on a Scott Revolve air compressor. So, not compressor, but fill station. So basically what it is, it's a door. You hang a bottle on one side of the door, and you flip it around while you take that bottle off, and that one's filling. And then you flip it back around, take it off, and you keep swapping. So it's a very cool mechanism.
It's efficient. Yeah.
Very efficient. Well, the door spins, and there's a little detent ball at the bottom that catches the door and stops it. Well, it wasn't working. And I was servicing their compressors and this fill station, and I noticed that when you turned the door, it just kept moving. I'm like, okay, that's dangerous. So I'm working on the ball at the bottom, and it's just kind of gummed up, and I had sprayed some stuff in it, and I was taking my hand and spinning the door really fast, getting it to knock the ball down, let it come back up, like clicking it. Well, it wasn't stopping. So there's a handle on it, and I knew where the handle was, but my brain didn't work, and I grabbed the door on the edge, and it sucked my finger, in between two probably 3/8 thick pieces of metal with about an 1/8 gap between them.
With momentum.
Oh, the door probably weighs 150 pounds. So it happened very fast, but when my hand and finger went in, the door just completely stopped, and it stopped where it was supposed to stop. So I had just serviced their compressor that is diesel driven, and there was diesel fuel on my hands, on a rag, and my hand was there, and I saw it, and I knew where it was at, but I could see all three of my bottom fingers, but I couldn't see my pointer finger. So I knew I had to open the door, and I fully expected to open it and look on the floor and see my finger down there.
Yeah.
So I pushed the door open, and I look down, and I don't see a finger anywhere. And I look up, and it's hanging off the end, first joint. And so it's about 40 degrees outside. It's cold. And I remember I grabbed a rag because it was bleeding pretty bad. It was diesel fuel rag. I grabbed it, wrapped it around my finger, walked outside to where the door was open, looked around, didn't see anybody, walked all the way across those 17 bays to where the office was to find the chief's office, because at this point I'm like, a Band-Aid's not going to fix this. Mm-hmm. So it's like a maze at this department, and finally find the chief's office, and there's like a 6 or 8 inch wide long glass in the top part of the door where you can see in. And I remember it was fogged up like frosted glass. But I was just in there earlier and it wasn't frosted glass. So I knock on the door and the chief's like, Chris, come on in. Well, I'm looking, and I vividly remember I don't see anybody in there. So I opened the door and I walked to his desk and I sat down in the chair beside his desk, and he said, what's going on? I said, I think I got a little problem that a Band-Aid's not going to fix. And he's like, uh-oh, what is it? So I take the rag off my finger and show it to him, slide out of the chair onto the floor, passed out, gone. like dead.
Yeah.
And couldn't tell you how long it was, but I remember waking up and there's these 2 MP guys standing over me, and they're like, are you okay? Are you okay?
These 2 what guys?
Huh?
These 2 what guys?
MPs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to tell me which department it was. You just don't know it yet.
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
You said MPs, so that narrows it down.
It was at the Air Force Base.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter where it was at. It's at the Air Force Base. So, they're like, are you okay? And I said, yes. I said, I need to sit up. And of course, I can remember like sweat beads. You can ask Buckner about me and sweat beads. Baking off my forehead. And so he's like, you need to lay down. I'm like, no, you got to let me sit up. And so I sit up, and within about what seemed like a minute, EMS was there. And so the girl from EMS came, and she's talking to me, and she said, are you okay? And I said, yes. And she said, looks pretty bad. She said, on a pain level of 1 to 10, where's your pain level? I said, a 2. And she's like, you really don't feel anything? And I'm like, I mean, it hurts, but I can drive home, whatever. I didn't know it was that bad. And she said, well, do you have a history of passing out? And I'm like, well, when I see my own blood or somebody else's blood, yes. But other than that, no.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I want to check your, she asked me that I have low blood sugar. And I'm like, no. I said, I don't even take any kind of medication. She said, well, I want to check it. And I said, I remember telling her good luck. She kind of looked at me funny. So she gets the little prick thing out, and she finds another finger. She goes to stick it in the end of it. It's
calluses.
like, yeah. And she tries it again. And I'm like, you can try it all day long, but you're not going to get it.
You got blood pouring out of your body over here. Why is she trying to make another hole?
I don't know. Yeah. So finally she moves down like past the first knuckle onto some skin. She gets it. She checks it. Everything's good. She's like, you need to go to the hospital. And I said, I am fully good with going to the hospital.
Yeah.
So we get in the ambulance. I'm just talking to them, They're wanting to check my blood sugar again. I'm like, no. I mean, I don't have blood sugar problems. This is a byproduct of seeing blood.
Yeah.
So we get to the hospital. The beautiful part about this is I could have probably driven myself, but I would have still been there today. So we get to the hospital. They put me in a room. Within 5 minutes, the nurse comes in. She's like, doctor will be in just a minute. The doctor comes in. He looks at it. And I'm like, doctor, I need to tell you something. And he's like, what is it? And I said, I am fully prepared for you to take my finger off. Like, I made peace with that on the ambulance ride over. I'm like, they're going to take it off. At what point do you sew it back on?
Yeah.
He said, I think I can fix that. And I'm like, well, think? And he's like, no. He said, I'm pretty positive that we're going to be able to fix that. He said, now, I can't tell you if it's going to work perfect or if you're going to have mobility, but we can get it on, blood flow, all that stuff will be fine. And I'm like, all right. So he said, well, I need to clean it out.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I said, well, what do we do? And so he brings out this needle that looks like a Coke can, and he sticks the needle in the web of my finger. And it is I've had shots. I've had crazy stuff happen. Nothing ever felt that bad. It was horrid. Well, as soon as he does it, I watch my whole hand expand, like it looks like a club. But I don't feel anything. So he starts scrubbing.
Oh my God!
In there, and I'm at this point I'm watching him, which I can't believe I'm doing, but I'm watching him, and he's scrubbing and it doesn't hurt, And so he's like, he said, I'm gonna let that kind of sit for a minute. We're gonna come back, and he said, I'm gonna sew you up. So he comes back and he said, I need to do an X-ray now first. He said, I need to make sure that we're okay to do this without resetting something. So I walk. They didn't want me to walk, so I walked into the little X-ray room, and I put my hand on this table, and the lady lines it up on the grid, and I mean, it's open. Like, it's not even a bandage on it. And she turns my hand every which way, and, of course, it's flopped over there to the side. And so we get the X-ray, we come back, and he's like, we're going to fix it. So he gives me some more numbing medication in the wound part, which I don't feel. And he starts sewing it up. And so he starts over on the inside of my finger, and he sews around over here until he gets back on this side, which was up at the top. So when he gets to have, I think he told me there's like 3 or 4 stitches left. Let me back up a little bit. So when he starts sewing it up, and he's about halfway done, and I asked him, I said, I haven't called my wife. And he's like, what? And I said, she has no idea I'm in the hospital. I said, do you care if I call her? And he's like, no. He said, if you want to call her, fine. So I'm laying there. He's sewing my finger up. I call Kim. I'm like, I need to tell you something. I know. That would have been horrible. I said, I'm in the hospital. And she's like, what's wrong? Do I need to come? I said, no. I said, I cut my finger off. I said, they're fixing it. I said, but I'm good. And she kind of freaked out, a little bit. Let me come. I said, no, let me call you when I'm done, and then we'll know what we need to do. So I talked to her for a few minutes. Well, he gets back up to the top where the skin is really tough, and I'm watching him put that needle in. It's lifting the skin up, but the needle's not coming through it. And he's like, you're wincing a little bit. And I said, it hurts. He said, you have the toughest fingertips I've ever seen in my entire life.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. So he said,
right, I do.
So I'm like, how many stitches do you have left? And he said 3. He said, do you want some more pain medicine? And I'm like, you have to put it back in the web on my hand? And he said, yes. I said, nope. I'll take the pain from this sewing deal any day of the week. So he sews it up. Everything looks good. Wraps it up. He said, the nurse asked me, she said, you have a ride? And I said, nope. Came here on the ambulance. I said, but I can call someone. So they take me to the front, and the nurse is like, you need to be able to stand up and walk. So I stand up, and I walk to the door, and I come back, and she's good. And she said, well, I can't release you unless you have somebody to pick you up. So call back down to the fire department. I called the chief, and I'm like, hey, you busy? He said, no, I'm here all night. I said, is there any way you can come get me? And he said, yeah, how are you going to get home? I said, can you bring my truck? And he's like, be there in 15 minutes. So him and one of the guys on shift drive up in my truck, in the fire truck. I get out, the little oh shit handle on the top up there. I wrap my other 3 fingers around it and hold it up, and I drive home. And I call Kim on the way home, and I'm like, I'm on the way home. And she said, who's bringing you home? I said, nobody, I'm driving. And she said, did they give you pain medicine? I'm like, yeah, but I didn't take it. I just took, the local stuff in the finger. And so it took about a year before I could ever bend it back down. But, yeah, I mean, it lopped it, like the end of it just hanging.
Did the X-ray tech person have any idea why you were in there?
No, she asked what happened.
Oh, what did you tell her?
I tried to explain it to her, but I missed my opportunity.
Dude, you could have come up with the coolest stories.
Yeah.
I should have said I was working at the base on their fire trucks, and I came upon this
shark.
What? No. Like, they had a grenade laying there, and I just picked it up, and I don't know. It would have been pretty good to do that, but I always miss opportunities. Yeah.
Shark attack.
For some reason, I thought he was going to say when he stepped in the truck, he shut the door on the finger.
Oh, dude.
No. No. I was very careful. But the funny thing about that is that happened on a Thursday. So Friday, the chief called me, and he was like, hey, man, I'm just checking on you, I said, I'm good.
Fixed?
Yeah, well, I was lacking one little thing from getting it fixed. And he said, look, we're good. He said, take your time. You come back whenever it's good for you. I said, I'll be there Monday. Monday morning, I got back in the truck, drove over there with my club finger, and finished up what I was doing. But yeah, it lopped it off. Like, it was bad.
I've never been dismembered.
I've been close with that chainsaw, but yeah. Shoo. I don't. I. It's a coin toss for me if I would want to go through the chainsaw incident again or do your finger. I don't know. I think I would take the finger, but I don't know. That was pretty rough.
Yeah.
So
I've cut the tip of the same thumb off twice.
Table saw?
No.
With what?
A knife in the kitchen.
Oh.
Both times cutting tomatoes. Both times at the firehouse. Both times.
The second time surely was a not again moment.
Yes, it was absolutely a shit.
Yeah.
Again, first time I got away with it, it wasn't that big a deal. Second time, I couldn't get it to quit bleeding. I don't know if in the healing process, because it's the exact same spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if in the healing process it did something weird, but my thumbs are much like your fingers, not nearly that tough. But I have calluses. I work with my hands.
Oh yeah.
And so I mean, I did it, and when I cut my finger, it makes this weird crunchy sound. Yeah, but then like it's all the way down to the finger. You can still see a scar where it's kind of growing back now, but it wouldn't stop bleeding. And this happened at like lunchtime, and like 1:30 comes around, and it still hasn't quit bleeding. I took a 2-liter drink cap and filled it up with super glue and stuck my finger in it. Pulled it out, and when I pulled it out, the super glue was stuck to it, so I had to pull the cap off. When I pulled the cap off, it just went back to bleeding again, and it would not quit freaking bleeding. So I got this bandage on it that looks similar to this. And I walk into BC's office, and I'm like, Stoffel, I guess I'm going to have to go to Medac there and have to stitch it or cauterize it or something. It won't stop bleeding. And no, I can't put a glove on, because me and him had this conversation. Can you put a glove on? Yeah. All right, you're good.
Yeah.
So, edit. So I was like, no, and I can't put a glove on because, it's wrapped up in shoes and it won't quit bleeding. So we go to Medac, and I don't know who the chick was that was there that day, but it was a lady that I have never seen before for physicals, never seen her before ever. I'm assuming she was a PA of some type, but I've never seen her before ever. She came in, she looked at it, and she was like, oh, you big baby. I was like, damn. I was like, it doesn't really hurt. It just won't stop bleeding.
Right.
She was like, oh, we get it. Stop bleeding. So she comes back in with this blue rock and a bowl with water and a roll of paper towels.
I'm so nervous right now.
And she did much like the doctor did with you, except she missed the part where she injects my hand with things to make me not feel it. So she takes this blue rock, grabs my thumb, death grips my thumb, pins it to the table, and takes this blue rock and starts scrubbing the end of my finger, and I'm levitating on this table. And she's already called me a baby, and I'm a tough fireman, so I'm not making a peep, but inside I'm screaming.
Crying inside.
Yes. And she scrubbed it with that blue rock, and then took that roll of paper towels, and she dried it off real good, put a gauze on a piece of tape over it, and was like, it'll be done bleeding in like 15 minutes. Sure enough, it was. And never found the piece of it in the tomatoes, and I guess I ate it.
Protein.
Nice.
Yeah, never found the piece of it. The first one I found the piece of and threw it in the trash can. But that's as close to dismemberment as I've been.
Well, I've actually been to the hospital at a fire department twice, but the second one was the first time, but it's hilarious. The other one was not funny. This one was funny. So you remember back when I was doing the hydros?
Yep. I think I've heard this story.
So I was working at 19 when it was Federal Point, and that's when Bean was there.
Uh-huh.
And so I was in my trailer, and I was doing hydros, and I was listening to music, and I was sitting at the little desk filling the paperwork out, and I had these little square Bose speakers hanging in the corner. And that thing fell off the top of the trailer wall and hit me on the top of the head. The corner of it did. And I'm like, oh, my God, it hurts. Just something hits you on the head. You don't have no skin up there, hardly at all. And a couple seconds later, I feel something, and this trickle of blood is running down my face. I don't know what it is. I'm thinking it's water, sweat, something. So I, wipe it, and I look at my hand. I'm like, holy crap. So
Night.
yeah, no, that was a time in my life where I was better at that. So that's when the bus used to be at 19. So I walk over there, and those guys are standing beside the ambulance, and I'm like, can you look at something for me? And he was like, sure. And I leaned my head down, and he said, I can see your skull. And I said, well, do you think I need to, go get it taken care of? And he said, yeah, you're going to need some stitches. So I'm like, don't even know what to do. Like, should I drive? Should I, what? I got this whole crap loaded on my truck. So I go inside, and that tannish gold-colored Suburban that was down there.
Yep.
So Butterbean's working. So he takes me across the bridge to the Medac in Carolina Beach. And I get in there, and I'm talking to the lady, and this is like a couple years into my career. I had zero health insurance. I am self-employed with no insurance. Didn't have any money hardly, and I walk in there, and told her what I needed. They looked at it, and I said, well, look, I need to kind of give me an idea about what this is going to cost. She said, let me check with the nurse. And so she comes back, and she said, it'll be $400 for the sutures or staples and another $400 for the anesthesia or, numbing, whatever it is that they do. So get back in the back, and I'm sitting in the chair, and the nurse and the little PA or whatever's in there. And I said, can you do this without any numbing medication? And she's like, yeah, but people don't do that. And I'm like, I want you to do it without it. I didn't have $400 extra to do this with, So they put those 3 staples in my head with nothing, which you'd be surprised how you don't feel as much as you think you do up there. So I get it stapled up, call back down there, and Butterbean comes back to get me, and they are dying laughing at me because I have been to Medac because a little 4-inch cube speaker fell on my head and caused this, So, yeah, 2 times I've had to go to the hospital for work-related accident, maybe.
Bravo for the no anesthesia staples.
Yeah, you'll be surprised what you'll do when you're broke.
Yeah, my son is not broke by any means. He doesn't even understand what money is or that anything costs money. But the van door at school, the van that takes him from North Duplin School to daycare after school.
Right.
He was doing something. He bent down to get something. They shut the back door, so he came up on it, and it put a big gash in his head. And he ended up having to have 2 staples. So I carry him to the pediatric place, and she was like, "Yep, he needs a couple staples probably." And we're like, "Cool." And she comes back in with the little staple gun, and then a syringe of local stuff, lidocaine or whatever it is. And he sees that shot, and he's like,
not happening.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's going to hurt if you don't get this in there. I said, the shot's going to hurt a little bit. I said, but then you won't feel the staples. And he was like, nope, no shot. I said, all right. And I told her. She said, well, hold him. 2 clips, and you could see them eyes beating up with his giant things, these giant tears. And I said, look, I looked right at him in his face, and I was like, you better be tough. And he didn't cry. Not one bit, but he took 2 staples. Them 2 staples stayed in for like a day and a half, and he had them pulled out.
Yeah.
Man, killing me, dude.
Yeah. Super glue.
I don't know if this one was on the corner of the door, so it was kind of wide.
Yeah.
And it was just laid open, so, but I don't know.
I'm a super glue fan. I don't.
Same.
Yeah, I don't get stitches anymore.
It burns like a mamma
bad.
jamba.
It does, but it's instant.
You know what burns worse? The liquid Band-Aid.
I never used that.
It burns worse.
Yeah, new skin or something
Yes,
like that.
absolutely. That was a trick in when I was competing in CrossFit a lot, because doing hundreds of reps of pull-ups or rope climbs or something like that, you would just peel layers of skin off your hand. Your hands would be just straight hamburger meat, and it'd be pulled down. If you have calluses, it yanks them all off. So it's just big pink spots where it's just raw skin. But at the end of that workout or whatever, when you got done, if you took that new skin stuff and just squirted it all over your hands, it felt like you were going. It felt like, I don't even know how to describe the pain, but it was instantaneously gone after that. It burned like hell, but it's like a sunburn. If you get a bad sunburn, the best thing to do is get in a super hot shower. It burns really bad, but then it doesn't, and it never hurts you again.
That's
Weird.
strange. Yeah.
Try that next time you get sunburned.
I've heard the sunburn thing. I've never tried it.
Yeah.
Me neither. Cold feels better.
Yeah.
Colder. Much better.
There's no growth in comfort, Chris.
Probably not.
So deep.
I don't care. It's not about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care.
Oh, no. I'm going to have me another swallow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty good stuff.
What's the little... it's wax.
Yep. Yeah, there was a...
Yeah, wax ring on it?
Yeah, I had to pull the
How do
cord.
they do that with the horse on top? I understand how Maker's Mark does it. They just dip their whole top in that wax running down the side as part of their signature.
I'm thinking they dip the wax and then put the horse in.
So you're telling me if we take that wax off of there, the horse will pop off?
Probably.
Huh.
I think the wax or the
wax is what holds the horse on?
Yeah, I think the horse has 2 prongs that go into the cork. I'm guessing.
But it's poured around the top of the stand the
weird.
horse is on.
Yeah. Some Blanton schnob out there, drop a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know. Interesting.
It's not attached. It is the horse is attached, but the wax isn't. So here's my guess. They dip it, and then they take something like a flame, and it melts off the horse down around the edge of that. Let's try that.
Man, that seems really labor intensive.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
Look
bet
at
the
it.
Google machine knows.
It doesn't look possible.
I don't know.
If you're selling it for $200 a bottle, you can take a minute.
That's kind of what
Have
I
you tried Eagle Rare?
think. No. Is it good?
Yes. It's the daddy to Buffalo Trace.
I haven't tried it yet, I don't think, unless you brought it here.
No. I've never bought a bottle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Hint, hint to the listeners.
Yeah.
As it turns out, we do like gifts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd tell you my address, but that'd be weird. What's your address, Steve?
Yeah, thanks.
Now, I think Eagle Rare is the actual mother company to whoever makes. I'm going to Google it so I don't look like a retard. But let me start this camera over. There we go. Go. Okay. But they do like several. They do Buffalo Trace. They do a bunch of other ones.
Mm-hmm. I do know there's a bunch of names under that parent company. Buffalo Trace is really good.
Yes, it is.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I clicked no for legal drinking age. It won't let you get in there that way.
Nope.
Definitely not.
I knew he was young. I didn't know he was that young.
We went too far when we said 26 and 27.
Yeah.
I think we meant.
Turns out he's 19.
I wish. You ever have those moments where you wish you knew then what you know now?
Daily.
I would be the valedictorian of my high school class.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a doubt in my mind. Because I did not try at all. I hated it. But, yeah, knowing what I know now, that few years of high school are short.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
I'd like to go back through high school now. Not the... Just the work part, just to see, you know, like, what's that movie where the...
Adam Sandler?
Yes.
No.
No, not Billy Madison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's where I went. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a movie where the man goes back, he's younger, but he's...
Benjamin Button.
Maybe it's that.
He's got the reverse aging disease.
Brad Pitt
Button.
movie.
That's the Brad Pitt movie. I don't think that's it. I can't remember the name of it.
Bagger Vance.
I'm going to tell you that motorcycle in Benjamin Button, that's badass.
Yeah, that is badass.
Yep.
That's a good movie.
It is.
Yeah, Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace is the distillery, but they do Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, and I'm trying to remember the E.H. Taylor.
That's Ian Martin.
Yep. Van Winkle.
Yes. I did read that when I was looking up the Patrick
Yeah.
Van Winkle stuff.
Benchmark, which I've drank that too. Who else?
I've never had the benchmark.
Yep, Benchmark. I've had that.
Blanchard met my dad today.
For real.
Yeah.
Like,
Marketing history, dude.
I know. He's a beast.
Dude's a gangster, son.
80 years old.
I aspire to make it half that age, 40. I aspire to make it to what you are, minus if you...
In a year.
Yes.
I made it several years ago.
Oh, man. I've told Holly since we ever met, I was like, if I make it to 40 years old, we've done something right.
Mm-hmm.
I do some dumb things.
Yeah. Dude, he's 80 and doing tree work, still playing softball.
That just still blows my mind. Like, he was so spry today.
events change people.
I agree.
Oh, that's not a yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing every time, but like I can think of a few events that changed like just the way I view things or the way I behave in that setting, you know.
Oh yeah.
When my dad died, I grew 20 years older instantly. Honest truth.
Yeah.
Instantly. It was, events definitely do that. And some in huge ways like that and some in smaller ways, but definitely.
I think they're trying to use that philosophy in treating like depression and opioid abuse and that sort of thing. Like they're trying to synthetically create that event that changes.
You talking about like the way they're doing with like MDMA and basically PCP and doing that?
Yeah. The goal is not the high and the flight and all that stuff. The goal is the life-changing event, like the perspective change.
Cranium. Don't they do kratom? What's
Kratom.
Kratom? Is that it?
I don't know.
Yeah, they use it in war settings a lot. Like they'll give that shit on the battlefield right now. If you got a real bad injury, they'll pop you full of that, and it's like there's a name for it. It's a disassociating. I'm gonna butcher this, I'm sure, but I'm gonna try. It's a disassociating anesthetic. So it doesn't make anything numb per se, but it disassociates your pain.
Is there another K term that's not that term that is also in that realm, like a painkiller that's meant to separate you from that?
That's it. It's not. It's either kratom or. Oh God. Did we butcher it? No.
You have to keep on with that, and then I'll tell you this. Another, is it? Wait a minute.
There was a guest on Joe Rogan show.
Yeah.
And he was like an amputee, and but it's like a commonly used pain medicine. But then, oddly enough, like once it started successfully being used, then they like tried to squash it.
And it didn't work?
It did work.
Okay.
It works great.
It's got to be kratom. I feel like that's not right. You got me questioning myself.
I know. Yeah, it's a K word. But
Maybe
I can't.
it's not kratom. Maybe. Where's Jeremy? Jesus.
I know. Call him.
Kratom is what you see like at the CBD places.
Yeah. It's not that. Doctor, what's his name? In
Is it Keflex?
No. It's super common. It's Doctor, what's his name? In the Signal Fire guy. Rob, his wife does treatments with it.
Ketamine?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Ketamine.
That's it.
But that's for like...
I told you we butchered it. We butchered it.
I thought that was like for bipolar disorder and stuff like that.
They're using it for different things, but it's
I see it,
it's
ketamine.
Disassociating anesthesia. So it doesn't make you not feel anything. It makes your soul leave your body. Anybody you talk to that said they've done it, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're out of your body watching what's happening. Yeah. Like you hear the guys from war stories, they'll bang them with it in the helicopter when they start on the helicopter ride, and they're outside of the helicopter watching what's happening to them inside of the helicopter. I'm like, I want to do that. I don't want to get shot or anything, but I want to do that. Huh.
I hear these stories of perspective changing events,
yeah,
you know? And it's like, that's cool, man.
Like DMT.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. You ever heard of DMT?
Mm-hmm. The demilitarized zone? I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That place where Trump went?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get Kim in here to talk about some of these drugs.
She can pretty much freaking tell you exactly all of them.
I personally think there's a list of drugs that are frowned upon and finger wagged at that we're going to find out in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years that are wildly beneficial, used in the right setting to fix a lot of things that, trouble people.
You think it's because they don't want you to fix them so they don't tell you that they are, or do you think that people just don't know about it?
I think there's a couple of different ways to look at it. There is a lot of money in fixing symptoms. So I hate to...
Treating symptoms.
Treating
not fixing
symptoms.
them.
No, not fixing.
Yeah,
Just treating.
Yeah, thank you for that correction.
Yeah,
That makes
There
a lot
is
more
no
sense.
money in a cure.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Kim and I had that discussion one time, and we talked about it maybe the first time I ever did this show about if you go to the doctor because your cholesterol is high. Two things. One, nobody's going to make any money off of curing your cholesterol problem.
With a diet change or something.
Right. And two, why would you change your diet if you can go to the pharmacy and buy a pill that will lower your cholesterol for you and allow you to eat McDonald's every day?
Mm-hmm. Trevor Alger's a good example of that.
Yeah, people are lazy.
Sorry, Trev, I just outed your cholesterol issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, he when we were at 18 together, he started doing oatmeal and doing some moderate changes. And if I remember right, they offered him like a medical solution, but he was like, "Nah, I think I'll do the diet change." He's such a disciplined individual.
Without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I aspire to be that way. But I feel like I would, if I had that issue, I would fall in that thing where I would be like, I don't want to change anything I'm doing. I want a pill. I hope I wouldn't be that way, but
I don't think he would. Trevor's been on the planet a long time. Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeods, yeah, he's like 204 years old. So that's a lot of time to acquire knowledge and skill sets and stuff.
Trevor is old.
Yeah.
Looks great, though.
He does.
Jesus.
It's that whole like anti-aging thing.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
he's a stud.
He is a stud.
Man, I don't even know any other word to put for that. He is a stud.
I like what he's doing with this whole chef thing.
I do too.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
cooking with Trevor.
crazy cool thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The drug thing, I'm with you, and I think there's a lot of dogma surrounding it and a lot of what we've been sold our entire lives that, you know, what's fell on the Schedule 1 narcotics list is all bad because whoever back in the day said it was bad, and we've just gone with that since the beginning. Marijuana is probably the worst one for that. You've been told it's bad your whole life, but yet we can't find anything bad about it.
Right.
Until, obviously there's parameters around that, but there is with everything else. And there's just no money. There's never been any funding in research. There's never been any funding put in ketamine. There's never been any funding put in the positivity side of microdosing PTSD or PCP for PTSD or anything like that. There's never been any studying done because there's never been any funding to do it. So,
just today, that show that you told me to listen to, Sean Ryan, yep. What's the guy's name?
Eric Prince.
Yep. That show, it finished running. And so I just left it on the guy's channel. I was like, I'll see what's up next. And then he had a guy on there talking about psychedelics. You know,
he went somewhere outside of the U.S. and did one of those psychedelic treatments centers or whatever with a shaman and whatnot.
Yeah. It was so neat. Those two personalities, like the guy that knew all about the, I wish I could remember the name of that substance. But anyway, like
psilocybin?
No, this one was, it was something that was legal in Canada for a while, off and on. I want to say something green, or I had that, it rhymed with green. Anyway, that part doesn't matter. But there are two personality types, like hippie, down with the leaves and the flowers and stuff, and then this military guy. And they were vibing. Like, they had a common ground talking about this thing that if you backed up 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, to your point of what we were being sold by the media, by pharmaceutical industry, like these things are bad. But these things that are starting to be legalized and used properly they're very beneficial, but we've been sold that they're not beneficial and that they're evil and terrible. And that Sean Ryan show with the Eric Prince guy. A great example. Before I listened to that show, I had seen in the news the whole Blackwater thing.
Right.
And, those guys being indicted for different crimes and stuff. And I don't know the details, but just as a common citizen, I kind of questioned it. But at the same time, they're saying on the news that, these guys were doing bad things or whatever. And that was sold to us.
Yeah.
And then to listen to this guy, bro, that was like a political hit job, like they purposely sold the population. That there's so much of that stuff, and it makes me think, well, what else are they selling us that's not factual?
A lot.
I hate to sound that way. I feel kind of funny just even to saying that stuff out loud, but at some point you got to question,
especially when you're talking about things that right now in the context we're talking about things that have drugs. We're talking about things that have been deemed as non-helpful and bad and all that kind of stuff.
Illegal.
Ayahuasca is the one you're talking about. Yeah.
Ayahuasca, yeah.
Things that have been deemed as bad and horrible, but they're now showing up to be beneficial for some really bad stuff.
Yeah.
PTSD, a host of mental health problems from, chronic depression. I mean, all
opioid
kinds of
addiction,
things.
heroin addicts,
all kinds of things, and now they're starting to show up, mostly in other countries where people have gone to other countries and had experiences. But it's like I don't know what makes the powers that be want to demonize it. Versus, I mean, it seems like they would want to flip the script and figure out a way to capitalize on the situation rather than demonize it and keep it away. But who knows?
Well. Most things, like even the stuff that you're saying that they've, figured out that would probably work to cure this stuff, I can see where it could be really bad, but moderation could be
or guided use,
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there is a huge chance of someone becoming addicted or overusing, but that's with anything. Moderation works for food. It works for anything.
Yeah,
exercise.
Ice cream tastes good.
Yeah, but a gallon of ice cream is not the answer to ice cream tasting good.
Right. Devil's in the dosage.
Yeah.
Caffeine.
Yeah. Everything is moderation. Everything.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I love caffeine.
Yes.
Like, caffeine's nice to me.
Yeah. Would you say that you're dependent on caffeine?
No.
Yeah, me either.
But I like it. Coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
It tastes so good. The only reason I don't do decaffeinated coffee is because I learned how they make decaffeinated coffee. They basically take your coffee beans that are nice and natural and healthy, and then they soak it in some chemicals and
acetone.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want that.
I'd rather have
I just
caffeine.
want coffee. Yeah, it grows out of the ground. Put it in my hot water.
Yeah, but caffeine, it's a stimulant, just like cocaine or anything else. They're stimulants. So, I mean, devil's in the dosage. I've said it before, I'm a giant fan of letting people do whatever they want as long as they're not stealing or hurting somebody else.
That's right.
I don't care what you do. It makes never mind to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish things were more like that. I think life would be a lot easier for most people if everybody would just stay out of everybody's business.
That's
if you're not
impossible.
stealing, if you're not stealing, or which involves somebody else, or you're not physically hurting somebody else, or mentally hurting somebody else, then I mean, who cares?
It's a pretty beautiful thing you're describing.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
It's logical. We can't do that.
Mm-hmm.